The royal hall of the planet Varela was quiet. Tall glass walls showed a sky filled with purple stars. Alien nobles stood in perfect rows, their glowing clothes shimmering like water. Everyone waited for the human to enter. Princess Neril stood at the center of the hall. She was tall and graceful, with silver skin and long white hair tied behind her. Her eyes were like ice cold, proud and calm. Her golden wristband, the Soulmate indicator, rested silently on her arm. It had never glowed before. "This is just a peace meeting," Neril whispered to herself. "One human, one handshake, nothing more." Then the doors opened. A human soldier walked in. His name was Eli Carter. He was wearing a simple black uniform. His short brown hair was messy, and he looked tired from space travel, but his eyes were steady, brave, curious. All the aliens in the room whispered among themselves. "A human male? He looks small. He can't even breathe our air properly." But Neril stood still. She didn't care about their talk. This human was a guest. She was trained to be polite. She stepped forward and raised her hand for a traditional greeting. Eli looked at her, unsure what to do. "You may touch my hand, human," she said calmly. "It is the way of peace on Varela." He nodded and stepped closer. Their fingers touched. And then everything changed. Her golden wristband suddenly began to glow bright red. The hum was soft at first, like a sleeping song waking up, but then it grew louder. The red light pulsed like a heartbeat. Boom, boom, boom. Everyone gasped. The guards stepped forward. One of Neril's advisors almost fainted. "No, it cannot be." Someone whispered. Eli pulled his hand away, confused. "What's happening?" Neril stared at her wrist, frozen. The red glow meant only one thing in Varelan culture. Soulmate detected. It was rare. Very rare. Most aliens lived and died without ever seeing that red light. The band chose only one true partner in the universe. Someone with a soul that matched perfectly. But this was a human. "No," Neril said, stepping back in shock. "There's some mistake. He's not even one of us." The band kept glowing. Eli looked at her. "Did I do something wrong?" "You touched me," she said. "And now this thing thinks you're my soulmate." He blinked. "What? That's not possible." She turned to her guards. "Take him away. Let the healers check this device. It must be broken." "No device error," the royal tech expert said, stepping forward with wide eyes. "Princess, the signal is clear. He is your soulmate." Silence, dead heavy silence. Then the nobles began shouting, "She cannot bond with a human. He is not worthy. This is an insult to the royal blood." But the band still glowed, soft and steady. Neril looked down at her arm. Her chest felt tight. Her heart was beating too fast. Her face was calm, but inside her mind, a storm was rising. Why him? A man from a backward planet. A soldier from Earth. He was not royal. He was not powerful. He was just human, but her band had chosen. And the band never lied. "Take him to the guest chambers," she ordered finally. No harm should come to him, yet. Eli looked around, confused and slightly nervous, but he didn't resist. Two guards walked beside him, leading him away. As the doors closed behind him, he turned and looked at Neril once more. Their eyes met for a second. She felt something strange in her chest, like warmth, like fear, like something she couldn't name. Later that night, Neril sat alone in her room. The band was still glowing faintly. Even though the human was far from her now, she tried to remove it. The moment her fingers touched the metal, it burned her skin. She cried out and pulled back. The bond could not be removed. It could only be accepted. Neril stared at the stars outside her window. How can this be? She whispered, "My soulmate is a human?" She had trained her whole life to be a strong leader, to never show weakness, to obey tradition. But this was not tradition. This was chaos. And somewhere in the palace, Ailey sat on a soft alien bed, looking at the same stars. I just came to shake hands, he said softly to himself. Now I'm someone's soulmate? He had no idea what tomorrow would bring. But one thing was clear. Nothing would ever be the same again. Asterisk, it was supposed to be impossible. Alien and human souls were too different. That's what Princess Nero had always believed. That's what every book, every elder, and every law had taught her. But now, her wrist still glowed softly in the darkness of her room. She had hidden herself away. No servants, no guards. Just silence and that cursed red light. She had washed her hands 10 times. She had screamed into her pillows. She had punched the wall until her knuckles bled. Purple. Nothing helped. The band still hummed. Still warm. Still alive. Somewhere across the palace, Ailey sat on a balcony, drinking alien tea that tasted like mint and fire. His eyes were fixed on the stars. He hadn't slept. Not even for a second. How can I be her soulmate? He muttered to himself. We met for 5 seconds. She looked at me like I was dirt. I don't even know what the word soulmate means here. He touched the spot on his hand where her fingers had brushed his. It still tingled. Not in a painful way, but in a strange, warm way. A way he couldn't explain. She's angry, scared, maybe even disgusted, he said aloud. I get it. I would be too. But deep inside he felt it. Something had started. Something real. Princess Nero stood before her mirror, her eyes red from rage, and something else. Fear. If I accept him, she said, staring at her reflection, I will lose everything. Her father, the king, had ruled with pride. Her mother had died defending their honor. Her people would never accept a human bond. Never. She pressed her fingers to the band, whispering an ancient command. Deactivate soulmate link. The band vibrat. Edit error. Link confirmed. Bond cannot be denied. Her face twisted. Then I will ignore it. The next morning, she called for her council. I want the human off my planet, she said firmly. An elder stepped forward. Princess, the bond cannot be broken. Then he must leave before it grows stronger. Another voice, trembling, asked, and what if the bond chooses again? What if it reacts to him, even from afar? She paused. Then I will wear gloves. They all looked at her like she was mad. But her decision was made. Eli was walking in the garden when 2 guards approached him. Their helmets looked like dragon skulls. You are ordered to stay away from the princess, one of them said. Any attempt to approach will be treated as an attack, said the other. Eli raised his hands. I didn't ask for this. She didn't either, the first guard snapped. You're lucky she hasn't sent you back to your planet in a cage. They left him standing there, confused and hurt. Later that day, Nero visited the royal archives. She needed answers. Deep in the shadows of the library, behind sealed doors and dusty scrolls, she found something strange. A locked chest with a broken seal. Inside was a scroll older than the palace itself. The first bonding, a tale lost to time. The drawing showed something impossible. A Varellan woman, a human man. Their hands glowing red. Lies, she whispered. Or truth we were told to forget. That night, Nero stood on her balcony. The wind was cold. Her band glowed even brighter. She could feel him. Somewhere, not far, not touching her. Not speaking to her, but connected. Her chest ached. Her hands trembled. Her heart burned with something she didn't understand. Anger, confusion, and desire all mixed together. I hate you, she whispered to the stars. But the band pulsed warmly. As if it knew the truth. And far below, Eli looked up at the same stars. I don't even know you, he whispered. But I think you're in my blood now. Asterisk, the library was not supposed to breathe. But in the deepest part of the royal archives, something was alive. Not a person. Not a creature. But a truth long buried, long denied, and now awake. Eli couldn't sleep again. Not because he was afraid he'd faced worse in war, but this was different. He felt like something had been tied around his soul, pulling tighter each hour. He roamed the palace halls alone at night, guided only by instinct. No guards stopped him. Maybe they were asleep. Or maybe the palace itself had decided to let him through. Then he saw the door. Strange stone door carved with symbols he couldn't read. It wasn't locked. Just forgotten. And when he touched the cold handle, it opened with a slow sigh, like something inside had been waiting to be found. Princess Neril was already inside. Standing among old scrolls and shattered statues. Eli stopped, surprised. I didn't mean to follow you. I was just, you were drawn here, she said softly, not turning around. He stepped closer. What is this place? She finally looked at him. No rage in her eyes this time, just confusion. And something close to pain. This is the part of our history no one speaks of, she said. The part they erased. She held up an ancient scroll. Dust danced in the air like ghosts. Eli read the drawing. A tall alien woman stood hand in hand with a human man. Between them, the same red glow as Niril's band. His eyes widened. This happened before? She nodded. Long ago. Before the Great Purge. Before we were told your kind was unworthy. Why hide it? Because it broke the rules. The woman was royal. The human was not. They loved each other anyway, and that scared the elders. They erased them from memory. Eli took a deep breath. Then maybe we're not a mistake. Maybe we're a pattern trying to return. Neril looked down at the scroll. Or maybe we're the next ones they'll try to erase. Outside the chamber, someone was watching. Lord Varen, Neril's advisor, listened from behind a wall. His face was tight with anger. If this bond continued, it would change everything. And he had worked too hard to let a human rewrite history. Later that day, Neril stood before the ancient fire in the royal court. She held the scroll in one hand, the band still glowing on her wrist. I want answers, she said to the council. They stared at the scroll like it was poison. This is forbidden. Knowledge, one elder said. Why? She asked. Because the past must stay buried, he snapped. But the past is calling, she replied. And it's calling through him. Her voice echoed in the room like a bell. One council member stood up and walked out. Another covered her eyes in shame. But Neril didn't move. For the first time in her life, she wasn't following a script. Eli waited in the garden. He wasn't sure if she would come back, but she did. This time without guards. No crown, no mask, just her. She walked up to him slowly, stood only inches away, and whispered, I found something else. He looked at her. What? She touched his chest with her fingertips. Her band glowed brighter than ever. And something pulsed inside him. No band. No tech, but a feeling, a heat rising from his chest, spreading through his veins. You feel that? She asked. He nodded. Yeah. Neril's voice trembled. Then this, whatever this is, it's not just Varellan. It's not just human. It's something older. He looked at her wrist. And stronger. In the shadows, Lord Varen made his decision. He whispered to his comlink, prepare the blade. The human dies tomorrow. Asterisk, the Quixote. Sky cracked open before the betrayal could dot it. Was supposed to be a peaceful morning. The twin suns were just rising over the Varellan mountains, casting golden light through the palace windows. Birds sang. The air was still, but peace was a lie about to be shattered by steel, fire, and a jealous heart. Princess Neril stood at the window of her private chamber, watching the suns rise. Her wristband glowed faintly, always glowing now. Like it had settled into its truth. She closed her eyes and whispered, Eli. Just saying his name made her chest ache. She had spent her entire life believing soulmate bonds were sacred until hers chose the wrong species. Or maybe the right one all along. She turned, heart racing. She was about to go find him to tell him something she'd never said before. But the walls shook before she could take a step. Boom. In the palace garden, Eli dropped to the ground as fire exploded from the sky. Guards screamed. Civilians ran. Alien ships, small, fast, and painted with the red symbol of the Karthak raiders, broke through the atmosphere, weapons ready. They weren't just here to threaten. They were here to kill. Eli stood up, pulling a guard's fallen weapon. Why are they attacking now? He shouted. One of the injured Varellan warriors hissed. They were paid to. This isn't random. Someone inside the palace called them. Eli's gut turned cold. A setup? But before he could think further, he saw her, Nero, trapped in the eastern tower. Smoke rising around her. She was choking, backing away from flames, surrounded by falling rubble. Without thinking, Eli ran straight toward the fire. Inside the throne room, Lord Varen watched the attack unfold on a floating screen. A guard asked, "Should we activate the royal shields?" Varen smiled darkly. "Not yet. Let the fire do what we cannot." The guard hesitated. "What about the princess?" "If she dies with the human, the bloodline remains clean," he said coldly. "And if she survives, we'll say the human bewitched her." Eli burst into the burning tower, coughing from the smoke. His eyes stung, but he found her. She was on the floor, pinned under a fallen beam. Her leg was twisted, her face pale. "Eli?" She gasped. "Why are you here?" He dropped beside her. "You didn't think I'd let you die in a fire, did you?" He grabbed the beam with both hands. Fire danced behind him. The building groaned. He lifted. It didn't move. He screamed, lifted again, and the band on her wrist exploded with light. A wave of energy rushed out of it, and suddenly the beam felt weightless. Eli pulled it away like it was made of feathers, picked her up in his arms and ran, the palace collapsing behind them. They burst out into the open garden. Soldiers stared. The air shimmered where the band's power had passed. Guards fell to their knees. One whispered, "It's true. The bond is sacred." Another added, "He carried her through fire. The ancestors must have blessed it." Neril coughed but clutched Eli's chest tightly. Her voice trembled. "I felt it. When you touched me, the bond, it saved us." Eli smiled weakly. "Guess your bracelet finally likes me." She laughed, and then her eyes filled with tears, not from pain, from something deeper. "Eli," she whispered, her voice breaking, "I don't care what they say anymore. I won't deny this again." He looked into her silver eyes. Neither of them noticed that the band's glow had spread. A soft red light now wrapped around his chest too. A second bond, or the completion of one? They didn't know yet, but the palace had seen. And so had Lord Veyron. Inside the throne room, his smile was gone. "They survived," he growled. An advisor stammered, "The bond saved them. Some of the nobles want to honor it now." "Fools," he spat. "If they believe this human is chosen, we lose control." He slammed his fist into the console. "Then we kill him quietly." She dreamed of fire. But not the kind that burned buildings. The kind that burned in her chest. That refused to go out. That whispered a name every time she tried to sleep. Eli. Princess Neril woke with a soft gasp, her skin still warm from the dream. Her wristband glowed faintly, but she barely noticed it now. The fire inside her was louder than the band. It had become her new heartbeat. Eli sat on the palace balcony, watching the stars again, but this time, he wasn't alone. Neril stood beside him, dressed in a simple robe, no crown, no armor. "Just her. I used to think humans were simple," she said quietly. He smiled. "And now?" She looked at him. "Now I think I was blind." They sat in silence for a moment, the cool night air dancing around them. Then she said something he never expected. "I'm afraid of how much I feel when I look at you." He turned slowly. "Even after everything, you're still afraid?" She nodded. "Because if I accept you, I'll lose everything I've ever known." He gently reached out and touched her hand. Her fingers curled around his without thinking. "Maybe," he said softly, "you'll gain something new instead." But outside the palace walls, whispers had turned into warnings. One elder spoke to another. "The princess is meeting him in secret. Her bond burns brighter each day." "Then we must act before it's too late," the other replied. "If she chooses him, she may choose Earth too." Later that day, Neril stood before her family's shrine, faces of past rulers glowing in crystal. "I never wanted to fall in love," she whispered. "I was trained for duty, discipline, distance." But her voice cracked. "He looks at me like I'm not a symbol, not a crown, just a person, just Neril. And I don't know how to walk away from that." Behind her, Eli stood quietly. He had heard everything. She turned, and for the first time, she didn't hide her tears. He walked forward and gently placed his forehead against hers. "You don't have to walk away," he whispered. "Not unless you want to." Her voice shook. "And if I stay? The council will try to kill you." He smiled faintly. "They already did. Fire, sabotage, assassins. You saw it. But you lived," she whispered. "Maybe love does make people stronger." The next council meeting was held in the Hall of Light, but shadows ruled the room. The elders stood in silence as Neril entered, with Eli beside her. Gasps, murmurs. A few even stepped back. "I am not here to ask permission," Neril said, her voice firm. "I am here to tell you what I've already chosen." "Princess," one elder started. She raised her hand. "My bond chose him. But now I choose him too." Someone shouted, "He is not of our blood." She stepped forward, her voice sharper. "Now maybe that's the point. Our blood has brought us pride, but also fear, war, isolation." She turned to Eli. "He walked through fire to carry me out. He didn't ask for this bond, but he honored it more than any Varellan ever could." Then she looked at the crowd. "Tell me, what does blood mean if the heart is dead?" Silence, but not everyone accepted her words. Lord Varen stepped forward slowly, clapping. "A beautiful speech," he said with a fake smile, "but too dangerous. If you stand beside him, then you fall with him." He raised his hand and guards flooded the hall. Neril stepped in front of Eli, her wristband flaring bright red. Varen narrowed his eyes. "So be it." That night, they hid in the old observatory, the one place the guards wouldn't check because no one went there anymore. Outside, the skies thundered with incoming ships. Inside, two souls sat on the floor, wrapped in silence. "Sorry," she whispered. "I brought you into this world and made it your enemy." He touched her cheek gently. "You brought me into your world and made it my home." She rested her head on his shoulder. "I can't be a queen and lose you." "Then don't be a queen," he said. "Just be mine." The stars didn't blink. They stared. Cold, silent, watching from the skies as two lovers ran through the shadows of a palace that once called them enemies. Boots slammed against polished floors. Sirens howled in the distance. Red lights flashed like blood in the halls. Eli held Neril's hand tightly as they sprinted through a servant tunnel beneath the throne room. Her breathing was sharp. Her hair flew behind her like a silver flame. "We won't make it to the ship," she shouted. "We don't need the main ship," Eli said. "I found something better." Hours earlier, while Neril was being forced into a meeting with the High Council, Eli had wandered into a forgotten hangar. There, covered in dust and vines, was a small royal escape pod older than the palace, built before the time of war. Made for only 2 passengers, he'd cleaned it in secret, charged its power cells, prepared it just in case, just in case tonight ever came. Now with guards chasing them and orders to kill on sight, it was their only hope. They burst through the outer wall, blasters firing behind them. Eli pulled Nero behind a fallen statue and aimed a stolen blaster. "Go, I'll hold them off." She grabbed his collar and yelled, "If you die now, I'll follow you into the stars myself." Then she kissed him, fast, fierce. "Next time," she said, "we live first, kiss later." They ran again, reached the hangar. Doors opened with a groan. The pod stood ready, its silver body glowing with ancient runes. "Are you sure it'll fly?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Nope," Eli said, climbing in. "But if it crashes, at least we die together." She smiled and jumped in beside him. The pod sealed shut. A soft hum began outside the hangar. Lord Varen's men arrived just in time to see the engines ignite. He shouted, "Shoot it down!" But the pod rose too fast, disappearing into the sky like a star breaking free. Hours later, they floated in deep space. The stars no longer stared. Now they surrounded the pod like old friends. Inside it was quiet. Nero leaned back against the wall, her face glowing in the soft red light of the Soulmate band. "I've never run before," she said softly. "Not from danger, not from duty." Eli looked at her. "How does it feel?" She turned her head slowly. "Free." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small charm, an earth coin tied to a string. "My dad gave this to my mom before he left for war," he said. She wore it every day until he came back. She smiled gently. "Did he come back?" "Barely," Eli said, "but they stayed together. Even when the world broke around them." He handed it to her. "You'll need it more than me." She stared at the gift, then at him. "Eli." The pod shook violently. Warning lights flashed. "Another ship is approaching." The pod's AI shouted, "Unknown signature, weapons charged." Eli's face went hard. "We're not alone." A black ship dropped from hyperspace in front of them, sleek, fast, deadly. Nero looked at its symbol and cursed. "That's not Varen's fleet. That's my ex-betrothed." Eli blinked. "You have an ex?" she sighed. "It was arranged. I broke it off." He swore revenge. "And he has a warship?" "He's rich and angry. Worst kind of man." The comms crackled. A cold voice said, "Surrender the human, Nero, or I'll tear open your pod and throw him into space myself." Eli stood. "Let me go out first. He wants me, not you." But she grabbed his arm. "If you step out there, I'll never forgive you." He looked at her and smiled. "Didn't we already agree? Live first, kiss later." She turned to the control panel and pressed something he didn't understand. "What did you just do?" "I activated the ancient bond system," she said. "Old tech. It links with the Soulmate band and defends the bonded." Outside, the black ship charged a missile dot inside. The band on Nero's wrist glowed brighter, then sent out a pulse through the pod. A shield of red energy wrapped around them, like a living force. The missile hit, but the pod didn't break. The shield held, and the black ship backed off. For now, Nero collapsed into Eli's arms, exhausted. "We can't run forever," she whispered. Eli held her close. "Then maybe we stop running and start fighting." The stars had judged them and chosen mercy, but mercy had a price. The ancient pod floated silently through space, protected by the glowing red energy of the Soulmate bond. The enemy ship had vanished, but not far. It was watching, waiting. Inside the pod, Eli held Nero as her breathing steadied. The light from her band had dimmed, but it still pulsed like a slow, steady heartbeat. She opened her eyes. "We survived." "Again." "Barely," he said, brushing her hair back. "But you saved us." She gave a weak smile. "No, we saved each other." Meanwhile, on the Varellan homeworld, the royal palace was boiling with chaos. News had spread across the stars. The princess has escaped. The human lives. The soulmate bond resisted death. Some nobles wept. Others demanded war. But among the people, the common ones, something strange was happening. Hope. They saw something the council had tried to erase for generations. Kalan truth. In the great chamber, Lord Viren stared at the floating screens, fury in his eyes. The bond protected them, an advisor whispered. Just like in the ancient scrolls. Then the bond is the enemy now, Viren growled. You would turn against the ancestors' will? The advisor asked. I will rewrite their will if I must, Viren snapped. Send every ship. Bring them back, or burn them both. Back. In space, the pod systems beeped softly. Multiple ships approaching. The eye warned. One royal, one hostile. Nyril and Eli exchanged a look. Two choices, Eli said. Run again, or face everything. She stood, strength returning to her voice. No more running. Nyril activated the pod's beacon, a signal that only the true heir of Varela could send. It was a call to the ancient ship still hidden in deep orbit. Old, loyal machines built for one thing, defense of the royal soul bond. From the darkness, they came, one by one, ships powered by forgotten tech lit up around the pod. Red markings glowed on their hulls. Eli's jaw dropped. What are those? Ships that only obey love, Nyril said. They were buried when my people feared truth. The black enemy ship fired again, but this time, the royal bond fleet formed the barrier. Missiles exploded in silence. Light danced across the stars. And then the royal fleet opened comes. A calm voice said, Princess Nyril, your bond is verified. Your command is accepted. She looked at Ela. Let's go home. They returned to Varela not as fugitives, but as a storm. The ancient fleet surrounded the palace. The people filled the streets, not with weapons, but with songs. Let her choose, they chanted. Let the bond live. Viren stood at the balcony, sweating behind his armor. His guards were silent now, confused, divided. When Nyril stepped into the palace square, hand in hand with Eli, time seemed to stop. She didn't raise a sword. She raised her voice. I was born to wear a crown, she said. But what is a crown worth if it silences the heart? The people cheered. Eli stood beside her, not as a king, not as a warrior, just as the man she chose. Lord Viren stepped forward, sword drawn. You shame your bloodline. Eli stepped in front of her. Then you'll have to get through me, Viren laughed. You're just a human. But the moment he swung his blade, Nyril's band exploded with red light again, and Eli's chest glowed back. The soulmate bond had completed itself. Not just on her side. His soul had accepted hers too. A pulse of red energy blasted outward, knocking Viren to the ground. His blade shattered like glass. He crawled away, defeated. Silent. The elders came forward next slowly, humbly. One old woman bowed. We were wrong. Nyril helped her up. Truth can be buried, but not forever. Then she turned to Eli. Will you stay, even if my world never fully accepts you? He smiled and squeezed her hand. Wherever you are, is my world now. That night, under a sky full of stars, they stood on the balcony together. The city was lit with red lanterns. The people sang a song not heard in centuries. Let the bond rise again. Nyril rested her head on Eli's shoulder. No more running, she whispered. No more hiding. He agreed. Just the truth. Just love. Stronger than blood.